Hi, I'm Steve Rawlings, the director of Leading to the Light, and I want to tell you a story about one of our workers, Ying. She's the medical missionary teacher for our Bible school, Emerald Missionary Training Center. And when I first met her, I realized that she was a consecrated, dedicated mission worker, and I wanted to know more about her. So one day, Ying told me her story. When she was 7 years old, her mother died. And she was living with her father, but when she turned 15, her father died, and she was sent to her auntie's house in Thailand. And auntie was raising her until one weekend, the pastor that we're working with had gone to this village where she lived, met the auntie, and found out that Ying and her sister was living with her. And he said, "Why don't you send them to my orphanage, and I'll take care of them and raise them." Well, auntie liked the idea of somebody else supporting them because she didn't have a lot of money, and she thought it would be a good opportunity for Ying and her sister to get a good education. So she told Ying, "Go and live in the dorm and go to the school, but don't listen to what they say. They're Christian, and don't listen to what they're telling you." And Ying was fine with that. She loved being in the dorm with other girls and kids her own age, and she was learning all kinds of things about Jesus, but she was ignoring it. Her auntie said, "Don't listen," so she wasn't paying much attention to it. And then one day she was in the dorm, and the girls were talking about their sponsors. And she wondered, what's a sponsor? What is that about? I've never heard the word sponsor. What is that? What do they do? And as she would go to school, the school was 10 minutes from the dormitory, so her and the kids would walk to school and back, and they would talk about life in the dorm and life at school. And at school, she was learning more about Jesus and really fighting. And she said she was starting to get interest, but she was fighting the feelings of she wanted to honor her aunt's wishes to not listen. And so the more and more she went and she heard little things about Jesus, she thought, I might like this. This might be something I want to know about. And then one day she got a letter in the mail from a lady in Australia. And she opened it up and she was reading and she was saying, "Who is this lady?" And she read, "I'm your sponsor, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm praying for you, and I wanted to know if you had anything that you needed." And Ying just thought, she said, "Who is this stranger that would want to help me? If that's what a Christian is, I want to be one for sure." And right then she decided that she was going to listen to the Christian messages, and she wanted to know everything she could about God, because some stranger in a foreign land was willing to sacrifice so that she could get a good education. And as Ying grew up in the pastor's orphanage and home, she finished school, and the pastor sent her to college. She went to the local university and got a 4-year degree in English language. And she came back to the foundation and worked for any projects that the pastor needed help on. The goal was to do medical missionary work, so she was getting lots of training and lots of learning until she came to the point where she was the teacher, when she was the best qualified to do the teaching of the medical missionary work when we started our Bible school. And as Ying and I have been working together for over 10 years now, we've had many opportunities to organize and plan projects for the Karen people. And we will go through different experiences that are making it possible for others to have a chance to hear about Jesus. One summer when Lynette and I, my wife Lynette and I were traveling around the country, see, we had when we went to Thailand, we would stay for 9 months, then we'd come to America, we'd travel for 3 months. Then we'd go back, and then we'd come back and forth, but every summer, which is rainy season over there, we come here and we travel. Well, this particular summer, our children, they were tired of traveling. They had been doing it for 8 years, and every summer it's 3 months of 9,000 to 12,000 mile road trip. It's kind of fun and kind of exciting, but it can get tiring after a long time. So they decided they were going to find jobs in America, and we were going to be traveling alone. So since we had the space, we brought Ying with us. She had been here in a training, and now the training's over. We picked her up, and we traveled around, and we visited the Karen churches here in America. See, the Karen people have been going through genocide by the Burmese army since 1949. And many of those people have fled into the refugee camps set up in Thailand on the border. Their hope is, I visited these people in the camps, and I've talked to them, and the dream, the promised land is to go to America and get out of those refugee camps and get away from the war. And so their biggest dream is to get out of the refugee camps, and they go to Australia, to Europe, and America. Well, we were with Ying, and we were going to go visit some of those people in America. And she sent me a list. She had like 12 different places she wanted to go, and we only made it to 6. But the first place we went to, we walked in the door, and there was a man, a Bible worker, that I had been in his home in the refugee camp. I didn't know he had moved to America already, but it was such a eye-opening experience to find out what it's like once they get to America. Is it still the promised land to them? We found out that I asked the man, how is it going? He had come with 3 of his 4 daughters, and they lived in the country and in America. And I asked him, how is it? Are you happy here? He said, I wish I was back in the refugee camp. I don't understand the language. I can't fill out all the papers. It's very difficult. Well, his daughters were doing a little better. They were getting jobs in the factories, and they were working. They still had troubles, but it was a little easier for them. And his grandchildren, they were doing the best. They were going to the local Adventist school, and they were learning the language and making friends, and they were probably going to be the ones that would adjust to the new culture. But this man, he came to me. We did meetings in his home, and there was about 20 Karen people who came, and we would do talks on health talks, and I did a talk on how the church began and who is Ellen White, and then Ying did a talk on health, and they just loved to have us come, and it really bonded Lynette and I to Ying. She became our daughter over this 3-month trip together. And now as we work together in Thailand, we know that we are a kindred spirit. We know that she is committed to spreading the gospel, and we know that she's willing to sacrifice much so that one more person can hear about Jesus. So we just want you to realize that there are people in foreign lands who have a strong conviction to complete that gospel commission that we've all been given. And they don't have the tools or the means or the opportunity to build a big building or even build a small building so that people can have a meeting place. And when you and I partner with someone like Ying, we're giving them an opportunity to expand the gospel in ways that they can never do without us. When I went to Thailand, I thought, I'm going to learn the language. Maybe I'll start a Bible study. Maybe we'll raise a church. And I quickly realized that I was not qualified for that work. But the language was so difficult for me. And God led me to start praying for local consecrated workers that he had already put the message in their heart to take the gospel to the world. And so I just want to encourage you to pray for these workers, to pray about how maybe you could help them to tell one more soul about Jesus. And I thank you for taking the time to watch this video.